Imam Ghazali, he kind of brings in concerning this discussion around arrogance, and he's basically talking about those individuals who are actually ignorant. Why mix that in, or why bring that up in the discussion around arrogance? Can't hear me?
Yeah, can you say it one more time?
Yeah, sure. So Imam Ghazali at this point, he's now bringing in this idea of ignorance, but even under this context and under this window and under discussion about arrogance, like why? Yes?
Arrogance leads to ignorance?
Arrogance leads to ignorance, potentially. What else?
Oh, or vice versa.
Ignorance leads to
I'm sorry?
Ignorance leads to arrogance.
Ignorance leads to arrogance. It may lead to arrogance. Okay. Anyone else?
It's the worst type of arrogance.
Right, it's the worst type of arrogance, for sure. Because the one who is arrogant and ignorant, can anything be done to help that person out of that situation? No. Right? I mean, maybe dua, right? Like maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens their heart and opens their chest, but at the end of the day, because a person who is ignorant and they know they're ignorant, what can they do? They work on it. They can educate themselves, they can learn, they can be like, okay, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. These are the efforts and these are the things that I can actually do to improve on myself. But if I'm arrogant, I feel like I don't need to work on any of those things. Why? Because I don't even know what I don't know. Right? That's the danger. So that once a man was mentioned favorably to the Prophet ﷺ, so they brought this person to the Prophet ﷺ. They're like, Ya Rasulullah, oh, this is the one that we were talking about. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I see upon his face a mark from the shaitan. And the man greeted him and stood before him. The Prophet ﷺ asked, he said, I asked you by Allah, did your soul tell you that there is no one in this group better than you? And he replied, by Allah, yes. So what happened in this situation? What's going on? We did. Quick recap then. We should have the answers even quicker. Who can help me explain? What's happening here? Okay, he's being arrogant. Good call. It's like, what is this class about? Islam, mashallah. What else? He's definitely being arrogant. There's no doubt about that.
He has a spiritual ramification to it.
Okay, there's spiritual ramifications for this. The other thing that really caught me is that this first part, that this person was mentioned what? Favorably. Meaning other people saw him and they thought what? They're like, oh man, this guy is so pious, he's so righteous, he's so upright. In the moment he's brought to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet actually exposes his affair, and he asks him, right? He asks him, and he was like, "Hey, do you think you're better than everyone here?" And he replies, "What?" He's like, "I actually do." So there are a number of layers of problems here, because the ignorance here isn't about the man. The man knows exactly where he stands and what he feels about himself. The ignorance here comes from where? Others. That sometimes we gauge people, and sometimes we judge people, sometimes we put people on a pedestal without really understanding their internal reality. So what are things that I can do to protect myself so that doesn't happen? Because it's very easy. Okay, how do I challenge myself? Should I just like distrust everyone? Is that like a solution? Yes.
Taking this system, you can ask them questions to figure out if they're arrogant.
Okay, 100%. I can approach them directly.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent strategy.
Are you the most knowledgeable sheikh in Arlington?
I am not.
Thank God.
If I was, Arlington has. I was like, if we do, Arlington has a huge problem. Asking them directly, good. So I think confrontation from time to time is something that is healthy if it is done in a healthy way, right? There's nothing wrong with being direct. There's nothing wrong with approaching people. There's nothing wrong with having direct contact and interaction with others. we live in an era, like one of the problems that I have with social media, and I don't have a problem in general, but there are very specific problems and issues that I have. One of the issues and problems I have is we don't actually interact with others. We're interacting with people. There's a layer of screen that is between me and the outside world. And when I'm able to hide behind something, do I represent reality? I really enjoy trolling people. I'm in a friend group. I don't really care for any football team in particular, but I know certain people like football teams, so I'll just make them upset and angry. Why? Because I have that layer of screen between me and them. But when I sit down with them and I interact with them, do I deal with them the same way? 100%. No. But the reality is like many times, I know who I'm interacting, I know who I'm dealing with. But when I'm on the internet, do I? No. Do people sometimes have screen names that are not representative of who they actually are? All of these are real issues and real problems, and we think sometimes we're interacting with someone, we think sometimes we're engaging with someone, and it's not actually that person.
Or even worse, if it's a bot.
I'm sorry? And sometimes it's a bot, right? Like sometimes it's not even a human being. And part of the reason that I say this is, number one, never argue with someone online, right? Like, I think that's just a principle in life that we should always say. Nobody has convinced anyone through the internet. That's right. It doesn't happen. If we want to convince anyone, we need to have, again, in-person, real-life interactions with others. The other thing what is the other element here that I can use to help me gauge? So direct confrontation is definitely one. What is something else I can do? Because while these companions are convinced, do you believe that there was a small level of doubt that they had? Yes. Why do you say that? Because they took him to the Prophet ﷺ. They were looking for validation. Is this something that we can do? And we do this with many of the things in our lives because we're not always the best judge of character. We're not always the best judge of people. So what do? We're like, okay, hey, listen, Sheikh, do you know this person? Oh, bring him. Let's sit down. Let's talk to him. He's saying that he learned da-da-da. He said he went to this university. He said he studied with these teachers. He said he's doing this. Okay, cool. No problem. Let me sit down with him. Let me see what he has to say. But both of these things, they involve what? Direct confrontation. And confrontation is not a bad thing. How we confront people, this can be bad. If we start becoming accusatory, if we start becoming disrespectful, right? If we start using slurs or language that is belittling, this is where it's a problem. But we should never be afraid to engage. And the easiest way to engage is just by asking. So the Prophet ﷺ, what did he use? Well, he had prophetic light, right? Like he had divine insight. So for him, it was a very different situation. For us, we might not have that level of insight, but is it possible that when we take someone to our teachers or to our mentors, that they see something in someone and they're like, yeah, I don't think so. It happens. And sometimes that can be ilahi, right? It can be something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifts to that sheikh or he gives to that mentor. Sometimes it can be experience, because sometimes these individuals deal with dozens, hundreds, thousands of people. And that experience plays out in their interactions. What prevents me from asking? What prevents me from taking this person to get him tested?
I don't trust myself, maybe.
Right. A lot of it boils down to me not trusting myself. Yes?
And like fear of reprisal, social environment
100%.
from that person or other people.
Many motivations that we have in our lives are social ramifications. Like, I might get ostracized from this group. These people might not talk to me anymore. I might not be able to be around this person or that. Or sometimes I'm so invested in a group that I become afraid of leaving them, because if I only know this group, what happens if I leave them?
It's more emotionally challenging than intellectual, mentally.
100%. Like, I'm saying social pressure is probably one of the most powerful influences that we have in our lives. And if I only know these 5 people, or if I only know these 10 people, and I start seeing things and I start challenging them, I will only challenge so much because I'm afraid of what? Being lonely. Right? That's the thing. Because the reality is how many of us have like tiers of friends? It's like, okay, this is my main group friend. This is my backup in case this group friend fails, right? Like we usually don't set up our social hierarchies like that. We usually have one group of friends or one group that we're invested in. And those are the ones that we spend our time with. Those are the ones we put our energy in. Those are the ones we're willing to spend on, right? Like that's our friend group. And when we put so much time and effort and energy into something, we become we almost become indebted to them. So when I see things failing, what do? What do I usually do? If I see that relationship or that friend group failing, what happens?
What should happen or what happens?
No, what usually happens?
You enable them.
I'm sorry, I enable them further. And I start what? I actually start spiraling. Right? I start spiraling with them. Why? Because I would rather be with them than be successful by myself. That's what conforming is, right? This idea of being afraid. But the reality is, okay, if I think like that, are there other people who share those thoughts and ideas? 100%, right? There's no doubt about it. I'm just not privy to them. I just don't know who they are. And what becomes scary is now I have to go look into different spaces and different places to find that group who agrees. And there will be a period of time where I don't have friends with anyone. There is going to be a time and there's going to be a transition phase where, yeah, you're right, I don't know anyone. But I have to learn how to be comfortable with that loneliness. I have to learn how to be comfortable when I'm standing alone. Because all of us are going to go through phases in our life and we're not going to be supported in every single phase. But the thing that will prevent me from that, again, I will blind myself. Like we were talking about willful ignorance, that's exactly what this willful ignorance is. And why do I do that? Because my feeling of being accepted is more important than the reality in front of me. And this is the same thing we do when we pity others, the same thing. My feelings are more important than the actual need that this person requires, than the actual help this individual is in need of. We make our feelings so important when at the end of the day, all they are is gauges. And if I allow my feelings to control me, what do we call that? There's a word for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses. Shahwa.
Again?
Shahwa.
Shahwa.
Desire. That I allow my anger to control me and pull me. I allow my love to control me and pull me. I allow my happiness to love me. Right? Everything I do, it's just to get those dopamine hits. Everything I do is just to get those feelings. But that's not qana'. But that's not what it looks like to be content. Content is not, it's not like this fleeting feeling that we have. When someone is content, they're actually content. They're pleased with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And they learn how to deal with it and how to manifest for it. And if a person is truly content, what does he or she seek after that? If I'm content with my lifestyle, if I'm content with my spirituality, if I'm content with my social circle, what happens for the person who's content? Content. They grow. What you guys are talking about is stagnating. And they can look the same, right? It's like I'm moving in this space. And if I'm moving in this space, I can move as I stagnate or I can move as being content. What's the difference? The one who stagnates, eventually what's going to happen to him? He's going to drop. And the one who's content, he's going to move up another level. And that's our entire life. Our entire life, seasons, chapters, whatever you want to call them. Yes?
Can you talk about the growth of content versus someone who desires more?
Sure. So desire, there's nothing wrong with desiring. Like we all want more. But the question is with what you have now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took everything that you had today, how would you feel?
Upset.
Okay, being upset is normal. Being upset is even healthy. Like after that feeling of upset, you allow that feeling to wash over you. You embrace it. Now what? Now how do I feel? Acceptance. That's qana'. That's being content. Yeah. Listen, does anybody like that their house burns down? Does anyone like that, their child gets sick? Does anyone likes that they get into a car accident? Like, nobody likes these things. But after the initial feeling of being upset, or the initial feeling of being angry, right? Like, number one, what do I do with my emotion? Remember, we talked about the one who puts his emotion first, that's what? That's being arrogant, because I'm making my emotions more important than the reality, and I'm making it more important than the situation. So if I'm sad and I'm upset about something, yeah, I can throw a pity party. I'm so sad, and life is so bad, and life is so tough. But okay, if you want to make this about you, go ahead. But the thing about a pity party is nobody wants to attend. Like, nobody wants to go to it. How many of you like being around your friends when your friends are like, oh man, everything sucks, and this is so bad, and this is so terrible, and it's just again and again and again and again. Maybe the first time it's like, listen man, yeah, I get it, yeah, definitely, it sucks, it's terrible, I'm sad that happened to you, blah, blah, blah. And to just keep, just keep going. It's like putting, like grinding flour, right? Just constantly just making it finer and finer. It's like, bro, I can't. Eventually it gets to a point where you start feeling overwhelmed. Think of how powerful selfishness is. It's so powerful that we can actually feel it when we're dealing with others. And it's so repulsive, right? It's such a repulsive feeling. When I deal with something, we get the ick, right? Like when people are so selfish and you can see it, you're like, get away from me, don't touch me, don't look at me. Why should we be like that? When we have the tools and the ability to recognize it, why do we make our emotions so important? I am not that important. I'm not. And how do I know I'm not important? Because everything's supposed to be Allah-centric. Right? Everything is supposed to be about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was never supposed to be about me. It was never supposed to be how bad things are, or how easy things are, or what I have, or what I don't have. Because those things are all irrelevant. Allah gives liman yasha, and He takes liman yasha. He gives and He takes whenever He wants. None of this stuff is mine anyway. It's all His. And if He decides to give me and bless me, okay, I'd be thankful, I'd be happy. And if He decides to take away, I'd be patient. But I have to keep moving, right? I have to keep moving. And there's nothing wrong with seeking. There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow. If I don't seek, how am I going to grow? Right? If I don't have desire, well, how am I going to get to the next level? How is that going to happen? I can't. I'm only going to stagnate, and I'm only going to drop. Now, how do I determine, is that desire being motivated by emotion, or is it being motivated by true desire for growth? Right? This is where I can start arguing with myself, and I can start battling myself. Because do some people grow just, for a person who gets wealthier and wealthier, for them, there's milestones. And at each milestone, what happens? He gets that dopamine hit, right? He starts feeling happy. So what does he do? He pushes to get to the next one. The difference between him and somebody who actually doesn't have a desire for wealth but has a desire for growth is that the one who has a desire for growth, even if you took everything away from him at this point, how would it affect him? Very little. He's like, oh, okay, Allah decided to take it away. And if my only intention was to get wealth and to get growth, the moment all those things are taken away from me, what happens? It actually breaks me. Why? Because that was my desire. But if my desire was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's obviously, if you give, there's a big difference. Do you guys know the number of, so people who win the lottery? So people who are poor and win the lottery, how many of them actually stay wealthy? You guys know? 2%. It's an extremely small percentage. Extremely small percentage. Why? Because if a person is bad with money, it doesn't matter how much money you give them. And if you give a wealthy person money, what happens?
He stays wealthier.
He gets wealthier. Why? Because they know how to deal with money. And it should be the same thing with us. As individuals, as Muslims, as believers. When we're given a resource, we should do our best to try to bring barakah in that resource. Yes?
So if you're content to grow, when you grow, what's that next step?
You're going to keep growing. It's like a never-ending journey. Example, somebody they get into Islam, somebody they grow, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promises, وَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And that ziyada, He Azza wa Jal, He says, you will absolutely no doubt increase. لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. To what level? And to what extent? Does Allah's barakah have a limit?
No.
It's unlimited. So what does that increase look like? It looks like an unlimited increase. And different people are at different levels, right? So a person might start practicing. And how are they starting to practice? They're making their 5 daily prayers, they're fasting in Ramadan, maybe they'll read like 1 or 2 pages of Quran like a week, right? This is what they're starting out. After a few months, man, I feel like I'm spiritually stagnating. I need to do more. He starts doing a daily wird. Like there's adhkar that he starts incorporating into his daily routine. After a couple months, he's like, man, I want more. He starts making his sunnah prayers. After 3 months, he can't keep up with the sunnah prayers anymore. So what does he do? He's like, okay, let me scale back. Let me stick to what I did well, continue on that, and then I'll try to grow again. How many of you have lifted weights or are familiar with lifting weights? Right. So what happens when you get to a certain point? Like you can't lift anymore. What do you do at that point? You guys heard of deloading? Yeah. So what does deloading look like? It's like, okay, you know what? I'm doing 180 pounds now. I can't get the 180 up, so I drop 10%. Right? So I go down to 160. And after doing 160, I go 165. Then now I move up to 185. So are there times in our lives where we have to deload even spiritually? 100%. Why? Because, okay, I wasn't ready for that. I jumped too quickly. So what I need to do, I need to scale back down so that I can grow again. But these require constant evaluations. Right? It requires constant mujahada. Like I have to constantly go back into myself. And the other element of that is like, okay, sometimes we need guidance. It's like, anybody who comes to me and they're like, Shaykh, I feel like I have ayn, or I feel like there's jinn or black magic, or some people will be like, I feel like things have kind of stagnated for me. I'd be like, okay, cool. What do your spiritual exercises look like? What are you doing right now? All right, number 1, are you praying on time? That's always my first question. Yes, alhamdulillah, I'm praying on time. What does your engagement with the Quran look like? Well, I don't really read. How much are you comfortable reading every day? Well, I'm okay with reading maybe a few lines. Okay, cool. Let's start with that. How much dhikr can you make a day? Can you recommend some? Sure. I can recommend this or recommend that. There's a whole bunch of recommendations. Let's start there. A couple weeks later, what's going on? Alhamdulillah, I was able to stick with all the, I want to start doing my sunnah and I want to, slow down. I know you're excited because of all these wins that you had. Let's up that few lines to a page. Is that doable? Yeah. A couple weeks later, yeah, Sheikh, I couldn't stick with a page. Cool, it's okay, it happens. Let's go down to half a page. And this constant reevaluation needs to happen time and again because that's the only way we're going to grow. And are there things in our lives that we'll discover that are bad for us? 100%. Are there behaviors that we need to curb? 100%. Because I might get a job where I have access maybe to women that I didn't have access to before. So this is a new fitna I haven't faced. I might get into a job where I have access money before, where I didn't have access to the money before. I might have access to networking before and people and individuals who can help me grow in a way that I didn't have access to before. So what do I do in those situations? I need to take shura. It's like, hey, listen, man, I'm getting exposed to this stuff and I don't, what are some things I can do to protect myself? What are some things I can do to make sure that I'm scaling and I'm growing in a meaningful way without falling into this fitna? And how do I know that it's fitna for me? What do you guys think? I'm sorry? I mean, a lot of things can take you away from Allah, just like min bab al-ghafla. Like it can be ghafla, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a fitna. You'll know. 100%. Yes? No? Okay. All right. You will know. How will I know? My heart's telling me. Like, this is the thing. Many times we are willing to push our heart aside for the feeling that we're getting about something. And I know sometimes it gets tricky because we associate heart with feelings, but there's the ruh, there's the spiritual heart, and then there's the emotional heart, right? And that emotional heart can sometimes trick us. Sometimes it can betray us. This one won't. But I have to trust it. And if I need to double check, what can I do? Ask for help. All of these things, like, they sound easy, but when it comes to actual practical implementation, it can become very difficult because we're always looking to protect ourselves. We're afraid to look silly. We're afraid to be ridiculed. We're afraid to be ostracized by our friend group. Like, a lot of it comes back to, like, just social perception. And in some cultures, in some societies, in some friend groups, in some places, it is stronger than others. But we have to learn how to manage it, and we have to learn how to deal with it. And he says that there's no worshiper that's safe from this disease. Like, everybody suffers from arrogance. Everybody has this issue. Everyone has this problem. For some people it's worse, and some people it's less. How do I know where I am? Many of us know where we are if we are honest with ourselves. But that is usually the most difficult portion. That's usually the most difficult issue. That it's hard for me to be honest. It's hard for me to be upright and for me to accept. How many of us like looking in the mirror and not liking what we see? Like, we wake up every day, like, fixing our hair, combing, brushing, right? Like, we're doing all these things so that we look nice, right? How many of us make that same effort on our hearts? This is actually easier to look at than this. Right? This is actually really hard to look at. Who likes looking in the mirror and seeing a coward? Right? Like, who likes looking in the mirror and seeing somebody who's unkind? Who likes looking in the mirror and seeing somebody who is, like, cheap? Right? No, none of us like that. It's like we look in the mirror and it's like, man, that guy's a real jerk. It's sad, but now I have an opportunity to do something about it. But instead of me worrying about my emotions, then it gives me an opportunity to actually worry about my heart. So there are 3 levels of arrogance that Imam Ghazali, he talks about. He says scholars and worshippers in the affliction of arrogance, he said they fall into 3 levels. He said the first level, he said where the arrogance is settled in the heart. Khalas, it's there. Right? It's settled, it's fixed. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And how does he know that? Because the way he looks at other people. Right? This is really important. It's amazing how our religion, like, centers so much on different relationships that we have. Whether it be relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it be relationships with ourselves, or whether it be relationships with others. Like, we're constantly juggling these things. And all of these are a reflection of our heart. Because if I surround myself with people who are a true reflection of my heart and willing to give me input and willing to give me feedback, that means that my heart is doing well and that I'm learning how to keep it humble. But the moment I have a friend who criticizes me, or the moment I have someone tells me there's something that I'm doing they don't like, and I find myself removing myself and pulling away from that person, that's also indicative of my heart. It's also indicative of me pulling away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That's the danger here. And that's how I know that arrogance is settled in my heart. And we do this, like, very naturally. Right? It's so easy to surround ourselves with people who are like, you're doing so well, like, go, like, this is so good, slay queen. Like, Like, it's so easy to surround ourselves with those people. It's actually difficult to surround ourselves with people who's like, why did you say that? When you said this, what did you mean? Right? And when we get cornered, like, none of us likes being cornered. But it forces us to be honest. And honesty is, like, it's so central to this religion. And a lot of times when we think of, like, speakers, or like, oh, why do you listen to so and so? It's like, man, I feel she's, like, so authentic. Like, have you guys heard this? What does that really mean? It means, like, we feel this person's honest. Right? Essentially, that's what it means. Like, we feel this person is honest. And it's like, yeah, you don't see a lot of authenticity in that space. What does that mean? I don't see a lot of honesty in that space. We have to learn how to be honest. So, this individual, what does he do? What are the steps that Imam Ghazali recommends? So, if I recognize, man, like, I am just very arrogant, right? It's like, man, I didn't realize how deep-rooted this is, but this is a huge problem. Where does Imam Ghazali say to start? Right, they have to start humbling themselves, man. And even Imam Ghazali himself, what happened? He was at Madrasa Nizamiyah. He sees all these mashayikh walking around. They're going from class to class. They got like 20 students behind them, and he's like, what is this? Like, he had an awakening, and he's like, man, this is not Islam. This is not the Prophet ﷺ. Like we're studying humility and we're studying Tazkiyah and we're studying all these things. I don't see any of this stuff being practiced. All I see is like arrogance. All I see is this clergy class of people. I don't see people who are actually humble. So what does he do for himself? He runs away. Like he leaves. He goes to Damascus. And what does he do in Damascus? He becomes a janitor. He's like, you know what? What I need to do? I really need to scrub my heart. I really need to get away from that. I want nothing to do with that lifestyle. I want nothing to do with that culture. And I'm going to put myself in the lowliest position possible. It's the same thing here. If I want to do this, because what happens is, with the tree of arrogance, I can cut off all the branches, but what happens? The roots are still there, right? They're still embedded in our heart. He said the second level is it's less the heart and more in the person's actions. So what are some things that this person does? They try to sit higher than other people, right? They walk into a gathering, they try to be louder than everyone else, right? Because they want the attention in those spaces and those places. And these are things, sometimes we fall short of. Sometimes these are things that we fall into. You know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And what happens is, here, this is the opposite. In one way, he's saying that, oh, this person tries to be the center of attention, and then he says the scholar, he turns away from them. How can we reconcile that? Or we can't. Just tell me now. Ghazali's wrong here, Sheikh. Like, just keep going.
So I'm struggling to understand his thinking. Because the Prophet used to walk, with his companions with him.
Sure.
They're following him. So what's wrong with a scholar having students following him?
If that's the norm. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were many, many times that he actually walked where? Behind them.
Okay.
You don't come to the Shema'il class, it's okay. He wasn't always in the front. And not just that, he didn't wear a uniform, quote unquote. Like, these are the things that bothered Imam Ghazali.
So it's a uniform.
Not just the whole culture. The whole culture.
Isn't that the main differentiator? A lot of people, when they come to Islam, they see that our imams and stuff are just people. They're not holy. Like, we don't follow them like how someone might look up their pastor as like someone sent by God.
I would hope so. I think there's still a lot of celebrity worship in Muslim circles. You know, I mean, take that for what it is. For most of us, how do we gauge a scholar's knowledge? Like, if most of us aren't scholars, how do I gauge somebody who has knowledge? What do I do?
Listen to them speak.
Maybe I can listen to him speak. That might give me a little bit of an idea. That's it. How many followers does he have? Right? That's usually, it's like, well, okay, well, if 20,000 people are listening to him, he's got to have something good to say. Right? Like, that's the mindset. Again, look back at the social pressure. It's like, well, 20,000 people can't be wrong about this person. Or like 70,000 people can't be wrong about this person. I'm not saying it's a terrible gauge. Please, don't misunderstand. Right? It's not a terrible gauge, but it can't be the only one.
Maybe Sheikh, his actions match his words.
Sure. Qualifications, yes or no, right? That's a mixed bag. I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at, right? You can look at followers, you can listen to what he has to say, you could look at his teachers, you could look at his qualifications. What do other people say about him? Right? I think there are a lot of different gauges that we have. But the problem is like, okay, even if you have someone of that caliber, the moment that they make a mistake or the moment they fail at something, what happens?
Everyone attacks them.
Well, not everybody attacks him. The thing you were talking about, some people's iman is linked with that. That's the problem with celebrity worship. Is their iman is linked to that person. How could the person who's so good do that? Right? And this is not uncommon. It's like, how can this XYZ scholar do that? Or how can XYZ Quran teacher do that? It happens. How do I temper that? That's really important, right? Messaging is really important. And not just that, this speaker, right? The speaker, the celebrity, the sheikh, this imam, whoever he might be, what part of him is represented on that stage? Is him being a father represented on that stage? A son? A worker? A counselor? A leader? Are those things represented on the stage? Not really. What is represented on that stage? Maybe his ability to speak. Right? Like as a public speaker, that is what you can gauge. Maybe his ability to teach and relay information. Maybe that can, you know what I mean? Like the thing is we have to understand like there's like a lot of us. Right? There's me the father, there's me the son, there's me the coworker, me the friend, me the imam. Right? Me the car driver. Right? Like we have all of these different roles and we wear these different hats in our life. Does that slice, is that representative of that person as a whole? The problem is what do we do with that slice? We make it like, oh no, this is him his entirety. It's like, wow, he's such an amazing speaker, he must be an awesome husband. Not at all. Right? He's an amazing teacher, he must be a really good father. Why? Like what is the relationship between the two? And it's amazing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not how He looks at us. What does He say? إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Just in that moment of that sayyah, that doesn't define who you are. Or you just because you did this one bad deed, does this now nullify you as a person? That's human. Think about that. It's a very human trait. That we will judge the person in the moment. And this moment will be the entirety of that person. Why? Because my feelings are so important. Like it comes back time and time and time again. That my feelings are more important than reality. And that is one of the manifestations of arrogance. But what is the opposite of that? Actually being forgiving. And we can be forgiving in different capacities. And it doesn't necessarily need to justify what happened. How many of you are familiar with Wissam Sharif case? Wissam Sharif, he was a Quran teacher. He was engaged in sexually inappropriate conversation with a very young girl. Very young. Some people are like, how? Is what he did wrong? 100%. Would I ever allow this person to interact and teach forget young girls, young children ever again? Maybe not even adults, honestly. طيب. But as a society, if he decides that, you know what, he's going to switch fields and go into plumbing, should I now restrict him from that? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to learn that there are different ways that we can compartmentalize people. There are certain things we can hold them accountable for, and there are certain things that we can allow space to provide areas and room for forgiveness. It's like, okay, hey, listen, he did this wrong. Okay, now should his life be shut down forever? No, I don't think so. Are there certain things that require that level of accountability? 100%. Murder, no doubt. Like, no. You are not allowed back in society. It's very simple. But things like this is like, okay, hey, have you served your time? Has the damage been, I won't say reversed, because many times in situations like this, the damage can't be reversed, but has it been dealt with, and has there been compensation in a way that can curb some of that damage? Okay, we have this individual now, how do we reintegrate him into society? Like these are very high level questions that Islam actually deals with, but the only way we can deal with it in a reasonable way is if we keep fighting arrogance. How could he do something so vile? How could he do something so evil? That's an excellent question. We don't know how people are tested. And we don't know how we're going to fail. We are not put in those situations. And it's very easy to pass judgment, even when they're clearly wrong. I want to caveat that. I want to be very clear. That what was done, unacceptable. What was done, 100% wrong. What was done, 100% vile. But how do we move on? As a community, how do we move on as a people? How do we stay away from celebrity worship? The same individual, thousands of people learn Quran at his hands. Thousands of people. Now, like, how do you compartmentalize that? Okay, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward him for that, but it doesn't mean He's not going to punish him for this. Right? Like, again, having that balanced mindset, but it's very hard to think clearly when I allow my emotions to consume me. So how can we be like that with each other? And all arrogance takes, like Imam Ghazali said, all it takes is for me to put myself on a pedestal. That's it. The moment I look down on someone, the moment I create classes, it's done. I'm arrogant. That's all it takes, just that little bit. Oh, look at so-and-so. Whoa, huh? Okay, sure, the action, wrong, 100%. And I've had conversations like this. Oh man, like so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, you know he's built like 100 masjids? Wallahi, we don't know. Like, we just don't know who Allah is going to accept from and who He is going to reject from. We just don't know. What gives me the right to put anybody on a pedestal? What gives me the right to look down on anyone? I put myself on that pedestal. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, from arrogance, both in if it like takes those roots in our body, or if it manifests. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم سائر المسلمين كل ذنب وخطيئة إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Any questions?
Father,
Yes.
just curious about Ghazali. Did he ever attempt to change anything about the Nidamiyya, or did
He went back. He went back at the end of his life, and he wrote Ihya Ulum.
But I mean, he was teaching there.
Yes.
So did he like try to give a different model for people to follow? No, he ran away.
But he came back and he wrote this. That was only part of his story. So what happened is that there was a halaqah that was going on. There was a dars, and the sheikh, he asked a question, none of the students knew an answer, and they kind of walked by him, and he was like, yo, the answer is such and such. Like, he's still a genius. Like, you have to understand, he's still firing on all cylinders, and he was like, such and such. So the student goes back the next day, and he was like, Sheikh, I have the answer. And he's like, what is it? He's like, the answer is such and such. And he was like, you came up with that answer? And he was like, no, actually I didn't. He was like, who came up with the answer? He was like, the janitor. He's like, the janitor? He's like, which janitor? What are you talking about? Stop lying to me. Bring the janitor here. And he was like, and then when he found out who he was, he's like, yo, what are you doing here? Yeah. That was in Damascus. And what happens, he goes back to Tus. He actually dies in Tus. He goes back to his hometown. He starts his own madrasa. The governor there gives him the support. And that's where he authors Ihya Ulum.
I was just trying to think, why did he decide to immediately run away and move to Damascus instead of trying to change things in Nidamiyya?
Because he felt he needed to purify himself first. He felt like he really needed to deal with hardship. He really needed to kind of scrub his heart fully before re-engaging. He felt it was so corrupted that he wasn't at a point where he would engage in that. So he's like, I need to get away from this. And the only way to do that, like khalwa is a very important thing. Like just being and understanding, like, okay, hey, listen, I need to get a reset. What does a reset look like? Yes?
So ideally, I'm assuming, like she's asking, so instead of like running away, we're supposed to like reflect, or like
Yeah, 100%.
ourselves down to
I'm saying, otherwise what's going to happen our whole lives? We're just going to keep escaping from place to place. Right? And that's not the idea. That's not the goal. Does it make sense sometimes to have like a strategic retreat? Right? It's like, okay, I'm in the middle of it and I'm just so overly stimulated that I can't operate in the space. What do? I have to reset. Not just reset, I have to remove myself. It's like, okay, listen, if I'm going to do anything, I can't do it here. I need to go into a space and a place where nobody knows me, nobody interacts with me. I don't have any social obligations because it'll actually give me an opportunity to reflect and sit down.
So I guess that's the lesson
Yeah.
from him leaving.
Yeah, 100%. Learn what a strategic retreat looks like. Anyone else?
Can you see the third level, please?
The third level? No, next week. I'm just kidding. Here you go. So he talks about in the heart, he talks about in the limbs, and then he says finally on the tongue. Allah protect us from all three.